So let's apply market fundamentals to U Sports football, Mike. The market has been volatile. So let's pick some bulls and bears.
Oh boy. Well, for a bull, I think right now I'm very bullish on the University of Montreal, and for good reason. They were upset in week 2 by Concordia, bounced back a week later. They beat Laval in one of Jim Mullen's favorite rock fight kind of games. And then it was on to a bit of a roll, 4 in a row, and they really looked after Laval last week with a 21-point win. So they are peaking at the perfect time. As for the Bear, I'm going to go with the Warrior and Waterloo. Man, I watched the first quarter and then some into the second quarter of the game against Western, and they just look completely out of sorts. One play into the second quarter, it was 31-0. So, they obviously missed Dion Pellerin, they obviously missed Tyler Ternowski, but they've got some problems there, and it looks like they might waste the final year of Trey Ford's career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the bigger issues for Waterloo last weekend was their defense. They've got some real problems on that side of the ball. We knew Trey Ford was coming off an injury. He was a little slow to get going. By the time he did start to get rolling a little bit, as you alluded to, Mike, it was already over. For my Bulls and Bears, my bull is the Golden Gales, who finished off their undefeated regular season this past weekend as they have a bye in the last week with a victory over Ottawa. So they roll into the playoffs with the number 1 seed in the East Division at a 6-0 record. And the way the structure is set up this year, that means that they can go all the way through the eights final without leaving that division. So that's a big positive for them. And if we're talking Bulls, it's also within the market they exist. Everything's kind of fallen right for Queens. On the other side, my bear market, what is going on with the University of Calgary right now? They do have a young squad this year. There was a lot of guys they needed to replace, but that was true for a lot of teams in this country. And the Dinos, after looking strong on opening weekend, have more or less fallen flat since then. They have their dynamic talents on offense, but too often that offense gets bogged down when it really counts. And this Sunday, they end up losing to their provincial rival, the Alberta Golden Bears, a team they have historically dominated. And now all of a sudden they're sitting at 1-3. They are really up against it to make the playoffs and get into a good position here. So I am really down on the Dinos right now, and they're going to need to bounce back fast. My penny stock, by the way, out west is the Saskatchewan Huskies, who I think nobody's paying enough attention to at this point.
We've had some quality candidates emerge for the Hec Crighton from all regions of the country. Who do you have as a favorite and a potential dark horse scored?
Well, my favorites, I think that Mike's going to talk about Edwards out at Western, so I'm going to go somewhere different, and I'm going to go with Jalen Philpott. Now, I talked about how the Dinos were my bear in the market right now. They need a turnaround quick, and the guy that has shown the biggest juice for them all year has been Jalen Philpott, obviously his brother Tyson as well. But Jalen, leading the country in yards per game receiving, has made a number of spectacular catches and needs to keep that performance up as clearly the most dynamic player in the Canada West Conference. And in terms of dark horses, keeping up on my theme of everyone sleeping on Saskatchewan, Mason Nihas has quietly had a very, very solid year as the pivot at Saskatchewan. And if he can keep that kind of production up, if they maintain themselves at the top of those Canada West standings, he might be a dark horse candidate for the spot.
Read my mind with Edwards scored, and for obvious reasons, this has historically been a quarterback-driven trophy, but I don't know if there's a standout this year. I think there are 3 quarterbacks. You mentioned one. I'm going to mention one in a minute that could claim to be the top quarterback in the country. The receivers might be 4 deep. You mentioned the Phil Potts. Dosso in Montreal's had a very good year as well. But in terms of running backs, there's really one guy, and it's Edwards. And he's averaging about 150 yards a game, about 40 yards more than anybody else in the country. He's going to win the national championship in terms of rushing yards by a long, long margin. And he's also going to probably lead the country in touchdowns. He's doing that right now. So, for me, that's the guy. And I thought it would be a closer, but when I really started to peel back the layers of the onion, I thought it was a pretty easy choice. I'll go with Olivier Roy as my dark horse. He got off to a great start. Maybe has slowed down in the last few weeks, but overall, I think he is the best quarterback in the country this year.